Today on the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast, we've got a special guest. He's a sheriff. He's probably the best one I've ever seen, if not definitely. I'm going to go with definitely, I think. All right. We're here with Sheriff Eric Flowers, and we're going to be talking about what took place in New York. We're going to talk about First Amendment, Second Amendment, and a whole bunch of stuff. So get ready because it's all unfiltered.
Dennis Michael Lynch gives you his word, and he will never let you down. He will always fight for America.
The only one who really puts his money where his mouth is Dennis Michael Lynch.
Hello, I'm Dennis Michael Lynch, and I thank you for joining me today. Across from me is not only a great sheriff, but a friend of mine. It is Eric Flowers. He is the sheriff of Indian River County. And so I got a text message from him. Usually it's something like, where's your house again? But no, the text message was, are you doing your show? And I said, yeah, I'm doing my show. I want to come on. I want to talk about some stuff. And I said, all right. And he goes in, it's about national. So I said, well, there's a lot of national stuff going on. So that is why my buddy here, Sheriff Flowers, is with me. So before we get into our back and forth,
yeah,
I don't know if you know this or not, but I actually lived 9/11. I ran from the buildings.
Unbelievable.
So I'm one of the people with soot all over his head. And last night when he won, and I knew he was going to win, and we're going to talk about why I knew he was going to win. Maybe you'll agree with me or disagree with me, but I knew he was going to win. But it's like anything else. It's like when it hits, it still hits hard.
Yeah.
And it hit me hard. And I felt as if it hit me hard because I have been loud. I mean, Cliff, our buddy here, knows he's been following me for a while. I have been loud about topics of mass immigration, Islamic terrorism, wild Democrats.
Yeah.
And I'm like, maybe I wasn't loud enough because people aren't paying attention. And now it's like a wake-up call. And my concern is if we ever get back to New York City again, I'm not sure if we do. And then the next problem I have is that is going to spread like a cancer if we allow it.
Yeah.
And so I started cursing. I was going crazy. I did a Facebook Live. And then when I was done, my wife said, delete that. So
did you?
I deleted it.
Yeah,
I deleted it because you know what? I used profanity at the level I usually would not.
Right.
And because you know why, Eric? Because I was sitting there and I was thinking about there's certain things in your life that you never forget about. And I will never forget about having my neck tilted back and watching people jump from 80 stories.
Sure.
Because it was the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
And so I found my emotion taking the best of me.
Like I'm here today because of 9/11, right? I go into law enforcement. I'm 21 years old when those planes hit.
Oh, really?
And I'm thinking about, I was thinking about going to the Air Force. I was thinking about, I don't know what I want to do. And I go, the fight's on the ground here. I want to be on the ground here. This is what I'm doing. And I go into the police academy right after that. So I'm sitting here today because of what you experienced. And so my passion for this is no different than yours. And the thing that I've been saying along the way, our team is constantly preparing for terrorist attacks. And, I've got this massive fight going with the county. Part of that conversation started months ago when I went, hey guys, yeah, we're sleepy little Vero Beach, but guess what? We need to be better prepared. Even New York, they line up all the dump trucks, the trash trucks. They put the fire trucks out there. You've been to Downtown Friday. You've been to some of this stuff.
Yep.
If somebody decides that they want to attack, our job as the law enforcement is to protect them. We got to protect every one of those people, and we got to be prepared for that stuff. When you look at, what was it, Louisiana, that they rode through New Orleans and the police chief walked up and said, I didn't know we had barricades. I'm not going to be that guy. Yeah. Not me, not on my watch. I'm going to make sure this stuff gets taken care of. And so I'm just as fired up as you are about this entire thing because I feel like my job is to protect our community from what's going on. And when you see this stuff happening in New York, it's like, what? Come on. Are you kidding me? This is where we've gotten to?
It is. I was on, Mayor Giuliani had me on his podcast 2 nights ago. And I know him back from, he was in one of my first immigration films. And I said to him, did you ever think that you would see a Muslim socialist, a terrorist sympathizer running New York? And he said, no, I didn't. And I said, one of the things he wants to do is he wants to start lowering the amount of police, putting less money into the police. Mm-hmm. Some people would call it defunding. And one of the units that he wants to start defunding, or at least in part anyway, is the counterterrorism unit.
Of course he does.
And I said to Giuliani, I said, you would know this better than anybody because as mayor, you're going to wind up getting those, phone calls from Bernie Carrick, who was a friend of mine, passed away, and he was the commissioner of the New York Police Department. I said, you're going to get that phone call, aren't you? He goes, I got it every day throughout the day. There's never, ever a day that passes by that New York City is not under a threat, be it real, be it fake, whatever. He goes, it's a constant thing. And my thing is this, Sheriff, I think your job is about to get increasingly more difficult. Not only is Indian River County becoming more of a destination for people with the adding of airports, and people are realizing how beautiful it is here. But see, I don't think New York City has to worry about a terror attack right now with Mamdani at all, because they're not going to wind up blowing up what they just took over.
Absolutely.
I'm more concerned about it being a magnet for these people and these cells to be planning what they're doing, knowing that nobody's watching them locally, and figuring out how do we go down to Florida, because that's a conservative haven. We are the conservative haven of this country. It's no longer Texas.
We're the target now. There's no doubt about that. And the idea here is, they've already infiltrated some of our networks. They're already in, and it's going to be the water gets cut off, the power gets cut off, the banking system closed down. It's going to be one of those things. And I hate to say it, but we have more conversations about that stuff at the command level than I ever want to. It's the conversation of the power goes out, the cell phones go out. How do we make sure our guys know where to report to and how to deploy and how to do that? Because our radios aren't working. Hell, it could be a solar flare that shuts it down. Maybe it's not even terrorism. Maybe it's something that we haven't calculated for yet that we've got to be prepared to respond to. But it's just crazy that people aren't thinking like this, especially law enforcement leaders, and the country in general has lost sight of this entire problem that, hey guys, you get comfortable and you get complacent, but we're seconds away from absolute disaster, and they just aren't thinking electing this crazy guy. I mean, I read on there, he wants to start, and I'm not sure how much you followed my fight with the county, but I keep calling them socialists because they socialized our trash, right? They decided that everybody has to have universal pickup now. And I'm saying this is no different than him, but he wants to have, state-run or city-run grocery stores. And that was part of my thing. What are we doing in New York City that this is the direction we want to go?
So I'm going to write that down because I want to talk about socialism with you, right? But I want to bring something else up that you and I experienced together, so this way people understand what it is that you're talking about. So obviously I have you on speed dial. And when all those drones were flying over New Jersey, and nobody knew what the hell they were, all the way to, the president said he didn't know.
Right.
I mean, the fear that started to embed within the human psyche, the people of New Jersey, the people of New York, even Florida. I mean, I'm sitting up there and I'm looking, I see something going across the sky. I'm like, Sheriff, are you hearing anything about this stuff? And you know what you said to me? You said, we are worried about this because we don't know what that stuff is carrying in terms of a payload. Explain that to people.
Yeah, so we actually have a drone detection system at the Indian River County Sheriff's Office in our real-time crime center, and we've got geofences around our schools, courthouse, the jail, all the places that we're worried about. Obviously, it's only as good as the software and the technology that we have, and I'm sure there are bad guys that have drones that we wouldn't even pick up, right? I'm sure the government has drones that we wouldn't even pick up. Right. But the threat is really that drone carrying a payload, whether it's a bomb, whether it's something that we don't want to get into our jail system, whether they're dropping off a cell phone or narcotics or something like that. But the thing that we're talking about more often than not, I was with the Lieutenant Governor of Florida, Jay Collins, the other day, and his conversation was talking about swarms of drones coming in, right? It's not going to be one singular drone. It's going to be a group of drones that's sent in to attack. And so this is a massive threat to our country that most agencies are just not even remotely prepared for or having the conversation about. And it's scary. It's really scary. You think your local police department is prepared for a drone swarm, right?
Listen, that's the part.
Sure.
That's the point right there.
Right.
I mean, if you asked your average citizen, and I don't care if it's Indian River County, New York City, or wherever, who's winning Dancing with the Stars versus who's representing you in Congress, the majority of people would be able to tell you who's winning Dancing with the Stars.
Absolutely.
Now, I don't want to sit here and say, like, every single human being for 24/7, you need to be on top of every single last fear that there is. That's actually your job, right? That's why we hire you.
Yes.
Right. So we say, hey, we want you to keep us comfortable. So this way I could watch Dancing with the Stars and not worry about being blown up. And you signed up for it. Cliff signed up for it. Everybody who's a cop signed up for it.
Right.
But when then you have like the county trying to strip you of the money you need to keep safety going, so this way the county commissioner can watch Dancing with the Stars.
Yep.
It's a counter argument. They
Yes.
want you to do great, but they don't want to give you the resources to do it.
Sure.
People want to have their own private lives. They don't want to be worrying about this crap, but then they're going to bitch and moan about that you're asking for an extra $2 million, $4 million, $5 million so you can pay and feed your people.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. And then what winds up happening is that when something does happen,
Yeah.
people look up and say, how the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
How did that happen? People are asking today how it is that Mamdani won.
Yeah.
And I know how he won, Sheriff. He won because this country has been for decades taking in, and this is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, taking in 1.2 million to 1.9 million per year legally.
Yeah.
Forget about the illegals.
Right.
Legally. So let me ask you a question. If my son wanted to become part of the sheriff's department,
Right.
and you kind of already know him a little bit, right?
Yeah,
You know
yeah.
he comes from good stock or whatever.
Yeah.
But even so, because I know you're a diligent guy, how long is it going to take you to vet him before you give him a badge and a gun?
Well, he's going to get vetted going through the process just to get into the police academy. That's going to be a big process. And then the onboarding for us is usually 3 months at least. So they've already finished the academy, been vetted by them, and then for us to bring them on, you're talking another 3 months. So it's well over a year to get that person onboarded.
Okay.
No doubt.
So you're going to vet my kid for a year before
Yeah.
you give him
Yeah.
a gun and a badge.
No doubt.
How do you do that for 1.2 million people who are coming from other parts of the country, from the world, many of them from adversarial countries?
Sure.
You know what's happening? They're just rubber stamping.
Of course.
So in the same way you wouldn't rubber stamp anybody who wants to carry a gun and a badge to have that power, why are we giving our citizenship over like it's coming out of a Cracker Jacks box?
I mean, I went to the border when Biden was in charge and saw how bad that was. That process was insane. Fortunately, we're getting a lot of those people out. Some of them are self-deporting. Some of them we're removing because of some good legislation and, of course, Trump.
Right.
But you're right. The people that are, even the ones that made it across legally, are still questionable. There's a lot of questions.
You just don't know who's in your country. And so now you got a guy like Mamdani who not only is wanting to bring in socialism, I mean, I don't think people understand that nothing is ever for free.
Right.
Right? I mean, one of the things about socialism, that the conversation that always comes up all the time is, my other son, Denny, he's got a bad back right now. He needs to get an MRI in his back. Monday, they said, you need to get an MRI. By Friday, he's got the appointment. By Wednesday, he's there. And he was pissed off that he had to wait 10 days. If you need an MRI in a country where there's socialized medicine, you may be waiting 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months before
Right.
you're even getting in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then after you find out what the problem is with your back, you may be waiting another 6 months to get a surgery.
Yeah.
So people don't understand. There's nothing for free. If you're going to get free medicine, you're going to wind up paying with your health.
Yeah. So you're segueing into what I've been thinking about so well. You're really
ahead.
setting me up here. So this goes back to England and when our forefathers leave, right?
Okay.
It's almost 250 years. We're coming up on 250 years, right? That what was the term quinti bicentennial or something? There's some term for it, but it's 250 years, right?
Okay.
We've been a country. So this group of patriots that get on the boats to come over here, to get on the Mayflower, right? They're a certain stock. You say your son comes from a good stock. They're a certain stock that says, we're rebellious, right? We're a group that says we're not going to live by what the king wants. We're not going to do what the monarchy wants. We don't really care. We're going to go to America and we're going to start something new. And so much so that after a few years, they go, England, we don't really need you anymore. And we fight them and we win, right? We become America. And I showed you that Saturday Night Live video, that stupid video, where we've gotten to a point of where the writers of Saturday Night Live don't even understand why the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment. Why they don't understand that the purpose of that Second Amendment is to protect us from a tyrannical government. It's not self-protection. It's not hunting.
That's
There's
right.
a whole lot of people on the left who think the Second Amendment is in place because we just think it's cool to have guns or because you have to protect your family, or it has nothing to do with that. It is to rise up against the government if they ever get out of line. That's the idea behind that thing.
Absolutely.
And so, when I think about the election of Donald Trump and I think about where we're at as a country, and I think, you're talking about New York and what's happened there. You're one of those guys that fled New York.
I did.
And in my opinion, the people who are left in New York that are living there, that are voting there, are immigrants,
Yep.
right? People who have come in the country who don't understand the things we're talking about right now.
Right.
It is some of the folks with white guilt, the Democrats that exist that say, I don't really understand our country and I feel bad for everything that's happened. And they have those feelings. And it's the hardcore Democratic Party people who want this to happen. Folks like yourself, the regular New Yorkers left the city. They might still have a place there for business purposes in Manhattan or whatever, but they're not living there and voting there anymore. They're living somewhere else and they're voting somewhere else. That's what's happening. And that's how Mamdani wins, is because the only people who are left that are there truly voting are that core group of people who don't understand this conversation. And in my opinion, you know, I brought up the Green Day thing, right? And I'm sitting there one morning and I'm watching the band Green Day on the Today Show.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And I'm thinking, my God, what is less punk rock than being on the Today Show? Right?
Right.
This isn't rebellious in any way. This is boring. This is awful. A punk rock band, a real punk rock band stands up and says, I'm not going on the Today Show. I'm not going on Jimmy Kimmel. I'm not going on any of that stuff. Right?
Yep.
They're part of corporate America, just like the Rolling Stones became part of that the media, the disgusting left side that's happening out there. And what is being totally missed, and this is the bigger conversation. I said I might write something about it. I think there's meat on this bone to have this conversation. Donald Trump is punk rock.
Mm-hmm.
The young kids today that are wearing that Make America Great hat are looking for that rebellion. And it's a foundation of our country. It's what we're built on. When I was 12 years old, I was born in Maryland, outskirts of DC. My dad says, I'm sick of the taxes. I'm sick of the nonsense. I'm done with this stuff. We picked up and moved to Florida. We didn't know where we were going. We didn't know what was going on. But in my opinion, what my dad did, what my family did, is the American spirit. We picked up and left because we weren't happy with what's going on. And you're seeing that around the country, that happening. People coming to Florida, people coming to other places that are red because they're sick of what's around them and what's happening. And that's such a great American thing. And the core of our country, you know, punk rock was founded in New York when CBGB's was open and, you know, the Ramones broke out and that entire, you know, all that stuff. The Beastie Boys, you know, they're punk rock to an extent, even though they're viewed as rap.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump is punk rock today. He is the guy that says, I'm not going with the flow. I'm not going in the direction that everybody else is going. I'm going to be different. I'm going to do something different. And the media, who traditionally has embraced that, has completely missed this, that all the kids, that all the regular people love that Donald Trump is punk rock. They love that we're not falling for this nonsense anymore. I'm not listening to Green Day. I'm tired of your nonsense. I'm tired of that. What stands out to me is Charlie Kirk and what's different about all of this. We had this movement once before. You'll remember this. When Reagan was in office, the number one TV show was Family Ties. Alex P. Keaton was that Republican pushing back against his parents, who were the hippie parents.
Yep.
And the pendulum has swung in that direction now. And we are at that point where the cool thing is to be conservative. The cool thing is to be Christian. The cool thing, but not in the eyes of the media. And they are trying to destroy this thing. And we've got to take this back. We got to get this under control.
Everything you just said there, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I mean, you're dead on right. And the issue, as I know it to be, you know, out of all the topics I always cover, immigration has always been my bailiwick.
Yeah.
And quite often people ignore it because right away, if I say we need to stop taking people in from the Middle East, all of a sudden I'm Islamophobia. If I say I want to stop taking people in from Ukraine, it's I'm pro-Putin. And every single time, and I just love what Trump would say. It's no, it's America first, pro-America.
Absolutely.
And so that message, being pro-America, has been spoiled by the media
Yes.
by making that sound as if it is a racist terminology.
Not even close.
It's not even close as right. I mean, there is nobody who is more hawkish on the immigration issue than myself. And then what winds up happening is that they attack me, and then I feel like I got to defend myself. I always defend the same thing, and I shouldn't have to defend myself. I said, you can't call me a racist. I was always voting for Trump all 3 times. I said, the first time, 2016, I get a phone call from Ben Carson back in my Fox days. Will you come and debate prep me?
Yeah.
And I said, of course I will. I said, but I'm going to vote for Trump. He says, doesn't matter. I still want to know what you know.
Right.
And I went there and I sat with that man because you know why? I said to myself, he ain't going to beat Trump, but Trump may tap him as vice president. So I'm going to go and help this guy. If I were a racist, I would say that Ben Carson's beneath me because he's black, and I'm not going to give him the time of day. That's racism. So what they've done by using words and propaganda and indoctrination is they've created this Hitler persona for Trump, and everybody that supports him is a Nazi.
That's right.
And Eric, the problem we're having is that it's sticking. It's sticking.
If you don't support Mamdani, you're Islamophobic.
100%.
But Mamdani comes out and is anti-Jewish, anti-Israel.
Of course.
What? How can that be?
Because that's the other thing too. The media has done, and I gotta say, there's guys on the right who are doing the same crap that the left is doing. It's like they're splintering us. You've got half of the top podcasting names. It's one of the reasons why I'm diving back into this. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here with my old guys?
Yeah.
And there's everything. I mean, if it rains out on a Tuesday when it was supposed to be sunny because there was a parade, it was the Jews. They must have made it rain. Every last thing is being blamed on the Jews. Charlie was killed by the Jews, and this is about the Jews and Jews. So there's this anti-Semitic sort of movement, and you got to say to yourself, where does it come from? And I will tell you, I will stick with this because I'm so studied in it. You're probably too young for this, but there was a trial in the early 2000s called the Holy Land Foundation trial, and it's the biggest government trial that there ever has been. And it tied back to Islamic terrorism and who was funding through the U.S. Islamic funding.
Okay.
The FBI did raids on these enclaves, and there are enclaves. I've been to them in the United States where it's just kind of like Muslim only. It's not a no-go zone, but it's an enclave where you wouldn't dare go there.
Right.
All right. So they wound up getting paperwork from the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood says right in their documentation, fucking paragraph 1, to take over the United States from within, you take over the government, you take over the media, you take over the business, you take over the education. And if you look at what's happening now, that last stage, which is take over the government, is taking place. We just elected a lieutenant governor in Virginia who gives her speeches with Arabic writing in the back. We just watched the Islamic sympathizer and terrorist sympathizer take over New York City. Dearborn, I've been to Dearborn. Eric, I'm telling you, if I put you in a blindfold, and you're a freaking smart guy, you're like a detective, right? You're Mr. Police guy. If I put a blindfold on you, gave you a little Xanax, and said, we're going to sleep for a couple of hours, and I'm going to wake you up. When we woke up and I took that blindfold off your eyes, and I said, just do a 360 and tell me right away, where are we?
Yeah.
You would guess Iraq, Yemen, Syria, something like that. And I'd say, no, you're in Dearborn, Michigan.
Well, hell, I was in Orlando not that long ago. I walked into a coffee shop with my wife, and I'm like, this is like a third world country in here. What is going on in here? You have people that I'm not sure what gender they are. You have people who are writing down in foreign languages. I'm like, what is happening? And it was just a regular coffee shop in Orlando. I mean, you would think that we weren't in a situation like that, but it's not that far from us. I mean, we're close.
I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It is spreading everywhere. And my contention is, if you want to do 5 prayers a day on a prayer rug, and if you believe in Allah, fantastic. That's great. There's a place for
freedom
that.
of religion.
Yeah, there's
100%.
a place for that. But when you start driving it in such a way where you want it to be submission, where you want me to submit to what it is that you believe in, and I think when you talk about the Israeli, Palestinian or Middle Eastern sort of difference, you'll hear people say that the Israelis are trying to force their way into the U.S. government by means of paying. They're lobbying. But then again, so everybody has a lobbyist, right? Then you look at the Middle East. They're doing the same thing. They're trying to do, the Saudi Arabia, whoever it may be, they're trying to do deals. They're trying to use their money to buy influence. They both are. The difference being is that the Jews are trying to survive and the Muslims are trying to dominate. It's two different things. You never, ever, ever hear some Jewish leader say, we're going to take back this city. We're going to change this. We're going to fundamentally change this city. It's never like that. But that's what you hear out of the Mamdanis. That you're horrible,
right.
You're a racist, you're
right.
horrible, we need to defund you, I'm horrible, I have a phobia of some kind. And we all sit back, we're like, whoa, wait a second, that's not who we are. That's not. I'm not a racist, I'll help out anybody. But when you're jamming it down my throat and you're telling me I got to pay 65% tax, so this way I can pay for the people who are going to sit on their ass, no, I'm going to push back on that.
But here's the thing. Look, I don't care what color you are. Right. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care what you do inside your house and your bedroom is not so illegal as long as it's not breaking the law. You do what you want, right?
Yeah.
But you damn sure better be loyal to America, right? I got a tattoo of the American flag right there. It's an eagle and the American flag, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I'm committed. I'm 100% in on what our forefathers came here to do. And if you came here for that reason, good on you. You can still worship your God. You can still do whatever you want to do. But you got to tell me you're 100% in on America. If you come here and say, yeah, I'm bringing over no, that's treason. That's a traitor. That's not what we need here.
Absolutely not. So you're nailing it. I mean, I could talk about this for 100 hours. The idea that you can hold dual citizenship is ridiculous. It's like saying that you could have two wives. You can't have two wives. You've got to commit to one or the other. If it doesn't work out anymore and you want to go to somebody else, that's understandable. You can't have two at one time. You can't have two countries at one time. You look at people like Ilhan Omar, who's getting up there and saying that, the Somali president is her president, that he's always in her heart, and that they're sitting there waving the Somali flag. And this is a woman who's got as much power in Congress as anybody else.
Absolutely. I tell you who's doing it right, though. You talked about the Jewish folks. My Jewish friends are some of my most patriotic friends. And they will say, I'm 100% committed to America. They have total respect for their homeland, right? And Israel, we want to protect Israel. We want to do all those things. But I'm committed to America. I live here. I raise my family here. I want to see America thrive. I'm good with that. If you say, hey, I come from Iran, but I'm committed to America. I want to see Iran succeed in a positive way. I have no problem with that, right? But you've got to say, America is my baby. This is my heart. This is where I live. This is what I want to see succeed.
To your point, if there was the equivalent of a Dearborn, but for Jews here in Florida, and I'm not talking about Orthodox Jews. I'm just talking about, like you said, regular Jewish people who come here, they assimilate, they're part of America, right? If you go up and down those blocks, you're going to see American flags. You may see the flag of Israel underneath it.
Absolutely.
Okay, I take you back to Dearborn. I would bet any dollar amount you want to bet that you would not be able to find an American flag flying anywhere, not even like the American flag and then the Saudi flag. You will not find one. I was astonished. The guy was taking me up and down. I mean, Eric, we were driving for hours, not a single American flag. And then finally we went down a street. It's almost like he did it on purpose, and he took me to the street last, and there was an American flag. I said, oh my God, what is that? And he said, that's a statement. That guy won't leave. He says, everybody else is leaving.
Wow.
They're taking over, because who wants to live there, Eric?
Right.
I think this is part of the plan that they have up there in New York with the whole rent control. What's going to wind up happening with the rent control is that landlords are going to stop putting money into buildings.
Yeah.
They're going to say, hey, I got to stop the bleeding. And then these places are going to become shitholes.
We're going back to the 70s. There's 100% you're going back to the 70s.
You know it.
Yeah.
And then so what happens is that normal people, normal families say, I don't want to live there.
Yep.
And it just becomes their own enclave. And before you know it, New York City is going to 100% just collapse.
Yes.
Financially, it's going to collapse. You cannot sustain overtaxing people, because when you overtax somebody, and this is the part of socialism, when you overtax somebody, you strip the incentive to go and innovate or to work. If I told Cliff, I told you, all right, I'm going to take 70% of your check, you'd be like, whoa, wait a second, man. I love the county and all of this, but you're asking me to survive on 30% of my wage? I can't do it. I can't do it. And eventually you tap out and you move somewhere else. And so
do you know how many California executives we have living here because of exactly that?
Because they said, I'm not doing this.
I had a guy in my office. He was one of the top guys from Mattel when Barbie and He-Man and all those things were as big as they ever were. He told me that 61% of his paycheck at that time was going to the state of California. And this is back in the 80s. He's like, I had to get out. I had to move. I had to do something. And he came to Florida for that reason.
And so that, go back to your point before, what you talked about, how, people are fleeing, and it's a very American thing to do. You left Maryland and you came here. I left Long Island and I came here because I knew that Florida represented, as far as I'm concerned, the last stand for freedom.
Yeah.
God, I love, you want to talk about no King's Day? I want to have let's make a King Day. I would make DeSantis the king of Florida. He has not done one thing that I've said I've been disappointed in.
So the no Kings thing, that was on my list to talk about. And, it's mind-boggling to me, and it's further proof, like I said, of, that Second Amendment sketch on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
The fact that the left just doesn't even know our history.
Nope.
If you knew our history, you're anti-Second Amendment. The Second Amendment is what's going to keep us from ever having a king. Right?
Totally.
That's it.
Totally.
We're going to say, no, you're not taking my guns. No, you're not going to do these things. I am an armed citizen. I'm protecting my family. I am making sure that this government, we will rise up as a group if this government gets out of control.
Absolutely.
That's what it stands for.
How many countries? I mean, I think Australia is one of them where they take the guns back or whatever. Then they sit there and they say, I wish I didn't do that. I mean, you're never going to get the guns out of Americans.
When I went to the FBI Academy, there was a fellow from Australia there, and he was, similar age to me, maybe a little bit older. And he told the story to all of us of when they collected up the guns. And we're all just wide-eyed like, you just showed up and gave them everybody just gave their gun. We just gave them up. It's just no big deal. And like he couldn't even comprehend how we felt about that. Like the idea that the government would collect up no, man, absolutely not.
Absolutely not is right. So let me ask you this from a Florida perspective, because you could call it local, but it's still national. So there was an article today, I'm not sure if it was on Fox Business or where it was, my wife sent it to me, saying that they thought that there was going to be a mass exodus to Florida from people in New York who say, I'm not staying here with this guy. First, he's going to tax me to no end, and my freedoms are going to be taken away, and I just don't want to be in what would be an anti-Jew, pro-Islamic extremist environment.
Right.
What are the challenges for Florida in order to be able to take, let's just even call it, hundreds of thousands of people who are going to all rush here at the same time? What happens with that?
I mean, we're going through a growth period right now. Our community is growing like crazy. And, we've done a good job of adapting from a safety perspective. I can tell you that we've kept crime at bay. We've reduced crime in certain categories. The problem is infrastructure. We're not moving fast enough. And so, this is probably post-COVID, the fastest boom that Florida's ever seen. Yeah. And so, I mean, just getting here, coming across the 17th Street Bridge is under construction. It's another item. And when that's done, it's only going to be 5 years behind where we should have been anyway, right? It probably should be 3 lanes. It probably should be larger. Mm-hmm. And so it's like when we finish a roadway, that road is ready for the capacity that it should have been at before we started the construction. And so we're very much behind on building the infrastructure that's needed to be able to handle the volume of people. And, we're in this weird spot between Central Florida and South Florida. And I can tell you, when I go to South Florida or Central Florida, I'm miserable because it's bumper to bumper traffic. The roadways are not ready for the volume of people that are there. It wasn't ready for 20 years ago. It's definitely not ready for how many people are here now. And so that's the problem that we're dealing with is that. But I mean, there are other people who live like that. California lives like that. New Jersey lives like that. There are people who, have no problem sitting in an hour worth of traffic. I personally don't. I like to be able to get around town in 15 minutes. That's why I live here, right? But as that starts to go away, you're going to have people that say, maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I am interested in more of the remote parts of Florida, and that becomes a challenge.
Well, I mean, one of the reasons why I moved here and I looked throughout the entire state, notwithstanding the Panhandle, I had no interest in that, and not towards the very part of where you come in through Georgia on the East Coast there. I was not interested. I guess you would call that the Jacksonville area. But when I looked all around Florida in terms of total beauty and lack of traffic,
Yeah.
and I don't want to give away too much of where we are, okay,
Right.
for my own personal reasons, but this was head and shoulders. And when I see the development, I mean, you can't drive anywhere without seeing the development. I mean,
everywhere.
the development is everywhere. And I said, oh, you know what? All good things come to an end.
Sure.
One of the things that bring people to Florida, and it definitely was one of, I mean, there were multiple things that brought me here. There were a lot of check boxes. And one of the big ones was, I should say a big one in terms of solidifying, you know, kind of putting a bow on it, was that there's no state tax.
Right.
Love it. I mean, especially a guy for me in my high earning years. I mean, it was a substantial amount of money. And I love that. But I get concerned because now the next movement is eliminate property tax.
Yeah.
And although I would love to save myself the $33,000 a year,
Yeah.
I wonder how it is that I'm going to be able to ensure my safety remains, because if you can't get the money you need now, how are you going to get the money if there's no property tax? So how do we square that circle?
I'll tell you, you know, like I said, we were with the lieutenant governor the other day, and I'm confident that they're taking cautious steps on this.
Okay.
You know, they're working through a ballot, an amendment to get before the people. And I will say that the thing that they've mentioned to us is this is only for people who have a homestead, right? So
Okay.
you have said, I am homesteading this house. This is my place of living. This is the one. So if you have multiple properties, you're going to have to pay higher taxes on the other properties.
Unless you homestead. And homesteading, you just have to prove that you're here for what, 6 months, 1 day?
But you have to prove it's your primary residence.
Your primary,
So if you
okay.
had 4 residences in the state of Florida, you would only get that on one.
Right.
You can only have it on one. You can't have it on the others. If they're rental properties or something like that. So, you know, I think that's a positive. I don't see this going to where it completely goes away. I think
Right.
that there's probably a relief on people who are sort of incentivizing buying and staying, right?
Right.
Because what is going to happen is those 3 rental properties that you own, you're going to pass that tax on to the renter, who is probably one of my guys, who now needs more money for his cost of living,
Correct.
right? So it's just sort of a shell game.
Yeah.
And so you're absolutely right. We have to be careful about that, unless the state is going to take some of the tourism tax or some of the sales tax and move that around to supplement some of this. And so that's a potential too.
Well, and I think, you know, because when I've been asked about this, because look, you know, clearly I don't want to pay $33,000 a year. And I certainly don't want to pay it knowing that if I can't, they're going to take my house, because then I really truly never own my house, right?
Right.
I'm renting it from the state of Florida or
Right.
whatever state it is. But my thought is that if you give me back 30, and obviously I'm on the higher end of taxes, right? But even if you take a guy who's probably paying $12,000 or $15,000, if you give me back my $15,000, I may take a little bit of that and throw it in a little bit of a savings account or in some stocks or whatever it may be. But the majority of that money I'm going to put back into the economy. I'm going to beautify my home with the extra money.
For sure.
So if I'm beautifying my home, it means I'm buying material, which has state sales tax.
Of course.
I am going to be hiring a contractor, which keeps jobs generated.
Yeah.
So I'm not all too concerned about it.
Yeah.
You know, but I want to make sure that we have a plan that's going forward, that where I'm not going to be defunding my police
Right.
to where in exchange for having no money going out in terms of property tax, I have freaking money going out to hire private security or whatever it may be in the streets here, because we've got to try to protect ourselves against the
Yeah.
crime that's going to rise.
You know, I'm proud of the governor and the team up there that are having this conversation, because I think it's a necessary conversation. But I think we're at a point, you know, obviously he's term limited.
Yeah.
You know, he's going to be out of office before too long. I think he's doing it during a time that is really good, because they have to come to some sort of agreement. Like the other legislators that are up there that are going to be part of this conversation recognize that he's on his way out. And so doing it right now, there's a chance that this thing is going to turn out better than if it had happened before, right? There's a lot of legislation when you have a very powerful governor, when you have a very powerful, legislature, they force things through. And a lot of times those bills are problematic on the other side of it, right? I mean, one of them we'll talk about is Parkland. Like, great bill. We needed some of those things, but then there's some unintended consequences that come out of that, right? We got kids who can't buy guns that are of age that should be able to, right? Some of those things that certainly are problematic. So I think there's a real opportunity right now with where he's at during his term, with the legislatures, recognizing that they want to try and accomplish this. I think they're going to come up with something pretty good. I have faith. I really do. As we sit here today, it's November. The session's going to be starting, so we'll see how this thing plays out and what actually ends up on the ballot. I think they're going to get somewhere. I really do.
Now, when you say on the ballot, I mean, would there be a special election for this? Or would they wait until the 2026?
It'll be on the 26th ballot. It's something that they're probably going to put in as an amendment that's going to need probably 60% of the vote to pass for it to happen.
I find it hard pressed to believe that you won't find 60% of Floridians saying that I don't want to pay property tax anymore.
I agree, but as it stands right now, I think they've got like 5 or 6 different proposals, like the different language and stuff, and so they've got to codify that down to one. You can't have 5 or 6 different ones, because if all 5 of them get voted in, that's problematic. They've got to work through all that stuff. So I think there's an avenue for this thing to really mature nicely between now and it actually voting. And, it's a great conversation. I agree with you. There's a lot of concerns. There's a lot of potential pitfalls, but as long as they really have a great, and even let's say they do say, hey, we just don't see an avenue to do this, but what we're going to do is everybody who's homesteaded, we're going to give them, another 25,000 additional off there, or another 50,000, credit towards their house. Okay. That's a win.
Hey, I'll take it. You know what?
It's a win.
That DeSantis did that in part. My daughter goes to private school. We don't have to say the name.
Yep.
She goes to private school. And DeSantis made it now where each year we send in an application and then we get a rebate of, I think it was $7,500.
You can take your tax money with you to the school. My son too. My son's special needs. He goes to a special needs school. And so that money comes, it would normally go to the school district. It goes there.
It goes back to you. So,
Right.
yeah, because I mean, in our world, not only are we paying taxes for somebody else's kid, then we're paying tuition for our own kid. It starts to become heavy.
It does.
I think
and my parents did that when I was a kid. I went to a private school.
Yeah.
And so my dad paid all those taxes that went to the school district, but then he was paying privately for me to go to school. So
mine as well.
Yeah.
I mean, getting into that part right there, Sheriff, when I look at what just took place in New York City, you were talking about the different people who voted for somebody like Mamdani. And you got, obviously, the immigrants. I mean, the statistics on this is when you look at, if you strip out the foreign-born and just go to the native-born, the polling was that Mamdani was only at about 32%. You add in the foreign-born, and he wins the election.
Right.
Right? Okay, so these people are voting for what they know at home. But there was also a segment. There's this, and I know what you're saying about it's cool to be conservative. And if you look at Charlie Kirk pre and post, his death,
Sure.
that TPUSA is obviously, every time you look at it, stadium filled.
Oh, yeah.
But I think we would be in denial if we don't look at the stadiums that fill for Bernie Sanders and AOC.
Sure.
And so there is a large wave of youngsters who believe that they cannot get ahead in the United States of America because everything costs so much money. I mean, trying to be a kid today, 25 years old, I mean, my son's one of them, go, have Ryan try to buy a house around here, decent house. Hey, he's got to come up with $100,000 just on the down payment.
Not happening.
He doesn't have it.
Right.
And even if I lent it to him, he's still got to be able to afford all the bills and
Absolutely.
the expenses of keeping up a house. So we have made it in such a way to where it's so very expensive to be an American citizen, especially a youngster today. When you take a good person who can no longer pay for things, you force them in a way to go on the teat.
Yeah.
And then start voting, so this way they get free this and free that. I mean, I haven't figured out the answer yet to this.
Yeah.
Just picking your brain. I'm not putting you on the spot because you don't have an answer for it. Say you don't have an answer for it. But in your opinion, as an educated guy and as a smart guy, how do we fix that problem? Because if we can't fix that problem, we're going to see more people voting for the Mandamis of the world. And I'll wrap it in a bow. When I look at AI and what AI is doing and how it will eliminate jobs, we're going to find a lot more people without employment. And then a lot more people are going to be needing some free stuff. And I'm afraid You talk about the Second Amendment and being a conservative and being a rock band, a punk rock band with Trump. That's fine. But at some point, we may find ourselves being the punk rockers against the socialist communists because they just don't have money. So how do we fix that problem in your estimation?
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I tell you where I think it really happens. We were just talking about schools, and the thing that's starting to pop up is this classical school model. And
the what kind of model?
The classical school model, right? So
explain that to me.
So the classical school model is based on getting back to basics. It's getting back to the curiosity and figuring out how the world works and really putting hands on. And, I don't know all the exact details. I've seen some presentations on it. I've been very impressed with this classical school model. We actually have one that's sprung up here in our county that Mike Kelly, who owns the Chick-fil-A's, is the founder for. And so, they have a Christian component to it, but it's really founded around education, and it's pure. It doesn't have anything to do with politics, right? That's all out of it. And so I think a revolution in our education system is what's necessary, because the left and the ideology, all of these things that are happening are really founded in our education system, right? The idea, and a lot of young people, when they grow up, they have this mindset of, they're taught these things, and that's where kids get it from. And so if we can get them in a way that they're learning, Charlie was trying to do that. He was going to those campuses, and he was saying to these guys, great, you're getting this education. And look, man, I'm ABD for life. I went almost all the way. I almost got my doctorate. I was almost there. And I saw it. I saw it firsthand, the liberal bend inside of our schools. Yeah. And to think of where we came from as a country, little house on the prairie, a schoolhouse where everybody gathered, and it was that group who decided how their kids were educated and brought those things together, and they grew up to be farmers and to be a part of the society to where we are today. Kids go off, they're making decisions on what school they're going on based on how their party rankings are, right? Like, am I going to go there and be able to have a frat house where I'm going to party at? And so we've got to get the education system on track. We need to be able to compete with these other countries. China's outpacing us in our education system. Japan is outpacing us. We've got to get to a point of where we're taking our best and brightest, and they're not just, look, the poor COVID kids, man, there's a revolt coming with those COVID kids. They went through 4 years of being masked, of not having social interaction. What are the long-term effects of that on our country? I don't have any idea what that even looks like. But we've got to get an education system in place that's going to take these kids and not muddy the waters with politics, not get any of that, and just straight up, here's how. I mean, even last night I was helping my stepson with his homework and his math problems. And even that, they start to try and get into, Bob's buying 3 apples and Sally's buying this. And, you get a little bent like, hey, what, you putting some communism in this or what? What's happening here, right? And it's just stupid little things like that we got to get that out of there together. We have to get these kids down to where they're learning what they need to know to be good, productive citizens.
I agree with you, because, what we're going to do when you and I are older, and we're going to sit there and we're going to see, what's wrong with our country. I mean, my neighbor next door, believe it or not, I've been here for all these years. It was the first time he and I have ever had a conversation. He was sitting outside. I went over, I said hello to him, whatever. And he said, I've been watching you. And he says, you know what I love? I said, what? He goes, you're always with your family. Does your family live here? I said, yeah, we all live here. We're very, very close. And he says, I don't see that anywhere else. He says, that seems to be falling away. The family unit is falling away. And it is. I think it goes back to the whole media thing. The media is just keep on pushing and pushing and pushing all these horrible anti-American narratives that you and I grew up with. And so it becomes, that's why somebody like Charlie Kirk, a lot of times it's more about like, who killed Charlie Kirk? I don't know if that's as important as why did they kill Charlie Kirk? Mm-hmm. Because if you find out who it was, and let's say it's the kid, who I agree that's who it is, okay, great. We still haven't solved why it is that they killed him. Uh-huh. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to shut up messengers. Yeah. Right now, it's pretty easy because the Facebooks of the world and X and Google, everybody's sort of relaxed because they don't want to be under Trump's radar screen. Right. My concern is once he's gone, they go right back to that censoring, and we're screwed. So we've got to always be fighting for that.
You're absolutely right. I do think, maybe it's my optimism. I wake up every day thinking I'm going to have a great day.
Yep.
That we're in one of those times. I think that the left had control between Biden and Obama for so long, and there was such a discontent with what was happening that we're going to at least see 2 terms, hopefully 3. You know, we got that before when we had, Reagan Bush for 12 years. My belief is that we're in one of those conservative revolts that we're pushing back against that. And I hope we do see somebody come up on the other side of Trump and get 2, 8 full terms, 2 4-year terms to be able to keep our country going in the right direction. But it's got to be somebody with part of Trump, when I say he's punk rock, he's got that spine. He's got that. He's pushing back. He doesn't care what they think. He doesn't care. You got to have somebody who's got that to be able to continue doing what we're doing.
I hate to say this. I mean, I said it earlier this morning when I did my morning podcast. Well, this will be airing tomorrow. So yesterday's podcast. And I said, this isn't, Marjorie Taylor Greene went on The View, and she was talking to the girls on The View like they were her sisters. And she's like, we should all try to come together and all be nice. I said, that level of bullshit, I'm with it. Let's be friends. We're on the same team. But the other side doesn't want to be on the same team. No. They're out for blood. And so this has become a game of the 50s. Yeah. We need 51%. We need 53%. We need 54%. Yeah. So it's like, we need to make sure that we've always got on the other side of that 50%. We're never going to get consensus. These people you're never going to change some of these liberal-minded people. I'll even take this local for a second, and we could end in the last couple of minutes here local so we get some good clips.
Okay.
I watch each week the local paper come through. And
I know where you're going.
You'd swear on all the Bibles in the world that if Trump was Hitler, you are Hitler's father. I mean, they make you out to be the worst guy in the world. I mean, what's it like every day when you know that you've got the left in here lying and cheating and doing everything they possibly can to try to take you down? How do you get past that?
Oh man, you develop alligator skin. That's the remedy for that. And I tell you, that's not something that happens overnight. When I ran for my first election, even before I had announced, there was a guy that was attacking me all the time on social media. And I would literally, in the mornings, wake up and I'd be panicked and, oh my God, I look at Facebook and see what's going on. And eventually, over time, that starts to, you just realize it doesn't matter. And you get to a point of where you say, you know what, I'm going to do what's right. I don't care. No matter what I do, somebody's going to say it's wrong. No matter what I do, somebody's going to find fault with it. No matter what I do, somebody's going to have some sort of conspiracy theory. Oh, he's really doing this because of X, Y, and Z, right? So all I can do is do what I think is right every single time and not worry about any of the naysayers or worry about anything they have to say. And I sleep great at night as a result of that. I don't ever worry about it. I know what I'm doing is right. I'm fighting for my guys. I'm fighting for our community. I'm making sure that we have what we need. And if you don't like that, well, then you're just not on my team.
Good. I have a buddy, I'm not going to say his name, but we talked before you were reelected, and he was going to vote for one of the other guys. And I said, that's a mistake. And he said, nah, it's not a mistake. And he started feeding me back some of the crap that was written in the book things. And I said, look, man, let me tell you one thing I learned about Flowers. I said, the guy is obsessed. I said, you know what he's obsessed with? And I said, what? I said, keeping you safe. That's the guy I want. So he's like, well, we disagree. So you win. And it wasn't more than about a month and a half ago. And he said, I was really close to calling you the other day. I said, why? And he said, I was going to ask you if you could ask Flowers if he could check out. I'm having this problem, whatever. And I said, you remember, you didn't want this guy, right?
Yeah.
I said, here's the craziest part about how wrong you are. I said, don't call me.
Yeah.
Call Flowers directly.
Sure.
He's open to everybody.
Of course.
Even if you didn't vote for him, he's open for everybody.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter what side you're on. It doesn't matter any of that, so I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
I said, you don't need me.
Yeah.
You don't need me to call him. I
Yeah.
said, he will take your phone call.
Of course.
That's the kind of guy he is.
Yeah. Did I take his call?
He didn't call you.
That's terrible. He should have called me for sure. You tell him. Give him my number.
I will.
I have no problem.
I'll do a. Hey, Eric, this is my buddy. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And
no
that's
problem
it.
at all.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And it's funny because when I talk to, my friends who are local here, not all of them voted for you.
Sure.
You know? And, but I tell you what, the one thing I get over and over again is that they all respect you.
Yeah.
They all see that we're living a nice sort of crime-free environment. I mean, it's not perfect, but what is? And I've never heard anybody say, I called Flowers' office and I didn't get a response.
Right.
Or I called and I needed help and I didn't get a response. And you look at some of this shit that they put up on Facebook and it's like, there's 4 cars that got into an accident and somehow they're blaming you.
Sure.
They're blaming you. And it's like, no, it's because people don't know how to drive.
Yeah.
And do you feel as if you get, and your office gets unfairly targeted for things that you didn't do or things that you can't control? And if there is, like, what's the biggest one misconception that's out there about the sheriff's department?
I'd say the biggest misconception is people don't understand. I'm obviously a technology guy. I've implemented a lot of technology. You've been to the Real-Time Crime Center.
Yeah.
There's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of like big brother beliefs. I got to tell you, man, we are so busy. You know, we've got 175,000 residents here in Indian River County. I've got one Real-Time Crime Center. You've seen it. I've got about 5 analysts that work in that room. They're staffing it from 7 a.m. until midnight, right? We don't have time to sit around and pay attention to nonsense. It's literally, I mean, just this morning, the tone alert, which is lets us know there's a hot call, went off twice before 9 a.m. It was 2 different exhibition of a weapon calls. These are people who have pulled out a gun during a call that we now know we're responding to a hot call with a gun, right? 2 different times it went off this morning, 2 totally separate, unrelated incidents. Our team jumps in there. They're looking at body cams. They're looking at the license plate readers, who did it, who was involved. We're busy with that stuff. I don't have time to worry about what you and your grandma are doing, going off to school or do what. If you need something, we're here for you.
Right.
But I'm not. We don't do any of that stuff. Our focus is safety, keeping the community safe, and making sure we don't have any idiots out there doing dumb stuff.
Well, I mean, look, I have no reason to kiss your ass. I think we know each other long enough that if I saw something I didn't like, I would tell you.
Of course.
Right? Without even getting into our private thing.
Yeah.
You said you liked somebody. I don't like that somebody. And we had the conversation.
Sure.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
I have been a successful entrepreneur my entire life since I'm 18 years old. So just in the same way you're a cop and when you go to a place, you probably look for things that I don't instinctively look
Sure.
for. So as an entrepreneur, I always look for shit that other people don't look for.
Yeah.
And I swear to God to you, when we were taking the tour of the entire prison area and the entire grounds and everything that you got going there, I did not see one area of wasted money.
Thank you.
Anywhere.
Thank you.
And that means something to me because
Sure.
as much as I like you, it's my money that you would be wasting.
All the time.
And I felt like that there was such a sincerity out of you and like almost like overly concerned where I remember you taking me through the place where you're making the food and you got the inmates are making the food, people are on their best behavior or whatever. And you started telling me like, yeah, it costs us $1 something to feed these people. I'm like, who does that?
$1.64.
Yeah, I'm like, who knows how much dollars?
Yeah.
What you're sitting there punching those numbers, and I understand why you do.
Sure.
Because you're trying to be
It's important.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
important. You're
Every
being
dollar's
money
important.
healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, so the money.
I got one for you.
Go ahead.
Right now. I just sent a letter over at noontime. So this all happened by Friday was Halloween, right? This past Friday.
Yeah.
So I'm over at the tax collector. I was over at Wesley Davis, our property appraiser's office, and with our tax collector. He had us over there judging pumpkins. Just having fun. Good Friday, Halloween thing to do. Yeah. And the tax collector, who's my friend, she says, I'm getting ready to return my money from the end of the year. We're all conservative, us 5 constitutionals. I'm getting ready to return my money. She goes, I got a half a mind to write the check out to you and tell the county commission I want him to have this money. So I sat on it on the weekend. I got thinking about it. I go, well, I have from last year $1.4 million that we didn't spend, that we saved, right? Awesome. We did a great job. Good year.
Yeah.
She's returning 2.4. So I call the other guys. I go, hey, how much are you returning? How much are you returning? When you add it up, $5.2 million.
And that's what you're short, right?
Between our all 5 constitutionals, we have $5.2 million that we're giving back to the county. That's almost exactly what I'm short.
What you're short.
So I sent him a letter and I said, hey, this doesn't cost you anything. This is basically, we're returning this money to you. You reached into your pocket and found $5 million you didn't even know you had. Just give me this money. I don't know if they're going to do it or not. They got a meeting November 18th. I'm going to get out there and say, hey, guys, here's an opportunity. It's not taxing anybody. It's tax dollars that have already been taxed from somebody that's just sitting out. You're going to put it in savings, or are you going to give it to me to put to where I need it to go?
Well, it's funny because that actually works so well to your advantage because now it smokes them out.
It really does.
It does. And it really sees where it is that their agenda lies.
Right.
Are they really truthfully looking to keep this area safe?
Yep.
Or are they just looking to bust your balls because maybe they don't like you personally,
Right.
or something rubbed the wrong way?
Yeah.
I mean, I will say I watched you sent me the video of the town hall thing, and I said, oh shit, I got to watch this whole thing.
No.
And I sat there for an hour, and I started to engage in it. And I mean, your team, you had another member of a different part of your team, everybody get up there. And the one thing that showcased itself time and time again was how passionate each one of those persons were about what they do as a member of your team and as a member of the sheriff's department for the community.
Sure.
And I was impressed. And I looked up and I said, holy shit, I just watched this stuff for an hour.
Yeah.
It was really impressive. I mean, you've done a great job with that.
My job in this process is to provide a budget to the county that says this is what we need to accomplish a job in the way that I want to lead the agency, in a way that we're as a group working. I mean, even our new mission, vision, and values that we did was a group effort. I'm the mascot. I'm the guy who gets to come out and talk to you and talk to the public and do all that fun stuff. But when it gets back to the house, we're all making decisions together. We're a good team. We don't succeed any one individually. We succeed as a team. And so when I present that budget, that's a team budget. That's not something that I dreamt up. That's not some number that I came up with. That's something that we came up together. Hey, this is what we need. And so I'm not going to come in and give you a budget request that is just nonsense. And so they don't understand that.
So last question for you. Let's assume for the moment that they don't give you the $5.2 million that you need, or whatever the five. Let's just call it $5 million. The $5 million you don't.
Yeah.
What can the people of Indian River County expect that may have to be eliminated from your arsenal of keeping people safe?
Yeah, we got some hard cuts on that if we have to. I mean, we're experiencing one this week. So for the last couple of years, our SWAT team and our corrections emergency response team have gone to Orlando during this week for the SWAT Roundup competition. Now, people look at that and they go, oh man, SWAT Roundup, whatever, great, cool. That's a massive training event for them, right? There's a whole week of training that occurs as part of it. And you also showcase your skills and abilities. You're in a high stress situation where you're having to perform at a level that competes with other SWAT teams and other groups from around the country. Just the fact that our corrections team participated in it has set a new bar for those guys that they never had. They never did that before I was sheriff. They're out there participating in this thing. And it takes everybody's skill set up to that level, right? And so it breaks my heart that I had to tell those guys, we don't have the money to send you to Orlando to be a part of this competition. And people in general see it as like, oh yeah, you go to Orlando but it's real. It's a skills test. It's a way to showcase your abilities, and it's a way to test you under pressure to see how you're doing. And so that's just one tiny thing. There's going to be training. There's going to be, cuts to all kinds of different, a lot of it's our community facing stuff. And that's a really unfortunate thing because we've put a lot of effort and energy into building good community relationships, with some of our impoverished communities, with some of our, our other communities. And, it's just, we're going to have to cut out a lot of those events that we were doing before.
If people think that that's unnecessary, the training part of it, that is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I remember a quick story on my They Come to America 4. My last film is on Amazon Prime, and it starts off that I'm down on the border with an agent right along Tijuana and San Diego. And he says, the cartels are here so often that we can't have our Navy SEALs train here anymore. This is where they're training. Because the Navy SEALs are not being trained the way they should be because we're not taking care of things. And I mean, the last thing you want is a paramedic not trained, a doctor not trained, right? Well, you don't want cops that aren't trained. And the other thing is you want the cops to have some mojo. You want them to feel great about what they're doing and feeling that they're the best of the best. Mm-hmm. And in the same way, nobody would want to have a surgeon that's only half-assed it. Nobody wants a cop who's only half-assed it, right?
That's exactly right.
So, yeah, I mean, look, what you've done so far since I've been here has been sensational. Last word goes to you.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I got to tell you, when I texted you, I was all fired up. I was like, I got all this on my chest. I appreciate, it's like therapy for me coming to here today to talk to you for a few minutes. I just appreciate you giving me the time to be able to talk about it.
And listen, if you know what, it's whatever you do, I always know it's in the best interest of everybody who's here in Indian River County. You got something to say, I want to hear it, and everybody else should hear it too.
Thanks.
I appreciate it in a big way.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. So that's it for us. I want to say thank you to Eric Flowers. He's the sheriff of Indian River County. You can follow him on Twitter. What's your handle on Twitter?
Flowers for Sheriff.
Flowers for Sheriff. There you go. And that's it for us. So until the next time, enjoy your weekend. And we'll see you on Monday, God willing. Until then, God bless you. God bless America. God bless our president. And God bless our great sheriff. We'll
Thanks
talk
so
to you
much.
soon.
Get the Dennis Michael Lynch podcast every day by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and download the DML News app from the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store for breaking news, merchandise, films, exclusive content, and Team DML.